we are diving straight into the action with the Louisiana Public Service Commission, grappling with massive electricity demand. Regulators are intensely debating how to implement large load tariffs to ensure data centers and heavy industry pay for the infrastructure upgrades they require, and we break down the critical decisions being made right now.
Tired of dropping your phone or struggling to hold it with one hand? The PopSocket's Pop Grip gives you a secure grip, works as a phone stand, and even lets you swap the top for a fresh new look. Simple, useful, and perfect for everyday phone use. Click the link in the comments to grab yours on Amazon.
Next up, we look at the growing pushback against industrial expansion in rural Georgia. Coweta County residents have taken Atlas Development, LLC, to court in a major appeal, fighting to stop a massive hyperscale data center campus on conservation land, and the details of this legal battle are explosive. Then, we head to Massachusetts, where residents are fighting back against unchecked development. Lowell residents have filed their first lawsuit against the Markley Group and state environmental regulators, alleging that the data center has severely disrupted their neighborhood and that public oversight was completely bypassed. Finally, we wrap up with the broader national context. We examine the federal attention on data center interconnection, and we ask the tough questions about jurisdiction as the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission prepares to act on significant new electrical loads. So stay with us for the full story. Louisiana regulators are actively grappling with the challenge of powering a surge in large-scale industrial electricity demand, driven by economic development and major investments in sectors like data centers, heavy industry, and natural gas plants. The issue was the central focus of a technical conference held by the Louisiana Public Service Commission in Baton Rouge on March 26, 2025. As state officials, utilities, and staff debated how to manage this growing demand without passing increased costs onto existing electricity ratepayers. The debate centers on establishing clear regulatory frameworks for major electricity users. Commissioner Davante Lewis stated that the commission is working toward implementing large load tariffs, formal rate structures designed to define how major users cover the costs associated with power, transmission upgrades, and other necessary infrastructure. Lewis emphasized a commitment to these tariffs, noting that similar policies are being adopted across the nation, with many states implementing thresholds ranging from 5 to 100 megawatts or more. These proposed large load tariffs aim to ensure that new, high-demand customers bear the financial responsibility for the system costs, thereby protecting existing customers from subsidizing major infrastructure projects. However, critics caution that overly rigid rules could complicate investment negotiations for companies seeking to build facilities in Louisiana. The regulatory discussions are closely tied to the Commission's Lightning Initiative, which allows utilities to seek expedited review for major infrastructure projects linked to new power demands, aligning with Governor Jeff Landry's executive order to accelerate economic growth. Louisiana's existing guidelines require utilities to identify necessary transmission upgrades and demonstrate that associated network and interconnection costs are fully assigned to the new load, though these guidelines remain non-binding. Other states are exploring stricter measures, such as requiring large load customers to provide their own backup generation before connecting to the grid. A significant unresolved question remains the extent of responsibility data centers should bear for funding and operating their own power infrastructure, a complex issue given that these companies typically do not operate like traditional utilities. Nationally, the escalating electricity demand has attracted federal scrutiny. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has indicated it will act by June 2026 on a proceeding concerning the interconnection of significant new electrical loads, including data centers, to the transmission system. This federal activity has raised jurisdictional concerns among states regarding local control and rate regulation, prompting Louisiana to seek clear guidelines on how to facilitate new industry while maintaining stable utility service for current customers. Boone County is currently considering a moratorium on data center development. This significant consideration is being discussed within the context of the growing demand for data infrastructure and its potential impact on the local economy and environment. The decision involves complex factors related to technological growth, resource allocation, and community impact. Stakeholders are reportedly weighing various strategies to address the needs of the burgeoning data center industry while mitigating potential drawbacks. Further details regarding the specific conditions of the proposed moratorium and the rationale behind the consideration are pending further public review and discussion. Coweta County residents have launched a significant legal challenge, filing an appeal in the Superior Court to halt the development of a massive data center campus on nearly 830 acres of protected rural land. The lawsuit names both Coweta County and Atlas Development, LLC, as defendants, seeking to overturn the county's decision to rezone the property and block the project entirely. The contested site is located near Welcome to Sargent Road and Wagers Mill Road, situated within the Middle Chattahoochee River Basin, an area designated by the state of Georgia as a most significant groundwater recharge area. The proposed project, internally named Project Sale, intends to convert the land from rural conservation zoning to full industrial use for a hyperscale data center facility. Petitioners argue that the county ignored its own land use rules, violated state law, and infringed upon residents' constitutional rights during the rezoning approval process. They contend that the county failed to conduct the necessary environmental review and public comment periods despite significant changes to the developer's application. Atlas Development initially sought light industrial use in December 2024, but amended its application in January 2026 to request the broadest industrial classification allowed under county code. Residents assert that this substantial change should have triggered further review, which they claim did not occur. The appeal details severe potential consequences for the community, including declining property values, years of construction disruption, damage to private water wells from ground vibrations, increased traffic, light pollution, and the constant operational noise from backup generators. A peer-reviewed study cited in the appeal projects an estimated $118 million decline in residential property values across approximately 1,215 parcels within 1.25 miles of the site, with construction potentially lasting up to 10 years. Environmental concerns are central to the challenge. The petitioners contend that hyperscale data centers require massive water consumption for cooling and strain the power grid. Furthermore, they challenge the project's environmental assessment, asserting that the original regional impact study incorrectly omitted the land's status as a most significant groundwater recharge area. Concerns were also raised regarding the chemicals used in closed-loop cooling systems and their potential impact on the local watershed. Economically, the appeal disputes the developer's claims of substantial tax revenue, pointing to the developer's own fiscal impact study, which projects annual revenue to be significantly lower than advertised. Petitioners argue that the promised economic benefits of such projects rarely materialize. The residents are asking the court to declare the rezoning decision void, find violations of county ordinances and the Georgia Constitution, and permanently prevent Atlas Development from proceeding with the data center campus. The filing seeks an immediate halt to further action while the court reviews the matter. Lowell residents have launched Massachusetts' first lawsuit against a data center and state environmental regulators, alleging significant neighborhood harm and unlawful sidestepping of public oversight during the approval process. The complaint, filed on April 27 in Middlesex County Superior Court, names the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, and the data center owner, Markley Group. 10 plaintiffs, members of the grassroots group Honest Future for Lowell, contend that the facility's expansion has severely disrupted life in the Sacred Heart and Back Central neighborhoods, areas long designated as environmental justice communities. The core of the legal challenge centers on a 352,000 square foot data center, which residents claim looms over nearby homes, with cooling tower mist settling on properties and diesel generators, contributing to noise and emissions. The allegations further state that industrial generators are situated behind a neighborhood Little League field, and that surveillance cameras monitor local streets and backyards. Attorneys for the plaintiffs argue this lawsuit sets a crucial precedent as similar facilities rapidly expand nationwide alongside the growth of artificial intelligence infrastructure. The legal action specifically targets the DEP's approval of a July 2025 air quality permit for the site, and what plaintiffs describe as an unlawful administrative agreement that permitted construction while an appeal was ongoing. Stephanie Safdie, representing the plaintiffs through Yale Law School's Environmental Justice Law and Advocacy Clinic, stated that the suit challenges both the DEP's approval of an air permit for 8 new diesel generators and the agency's issuance of an administrative consent order that allowed construction to proceed before the appeals process concluded. Safdie asserted that this constituted unauthorized or unlawful permission for the company to proceed without full permitting. The dispute originated in 2025 when Markley applied for an air permit to install 8 new diesel generators, bringing the total to 27 generators and 16 cooling towers. The DEP approved this permit on July 3, 2025. Residents appealed the decision weeks later, but the lawsuit claims the appeal was denied in August, leading to the current legal action. Alexandra Enrique St. Pierre, Vice President for the Conservation Law Foundation's Environmental Justice Program and a representative for the plaintiffs, framed the case as a conflict of power between Markley, the state, and the community, asserting that actions taken by the DEP and Markley were designed to exclude residents. St. Pierre characterized the consent order as a secret side process that allowed Markley to proceed as if the permit were already granted. The lawsuit follows increasing national scrutiny of data centers driven by the expansion of AI infrastructure and occurs in Lowell following a recent city council vote to impose a temporary moratorium on new data center construction. For local residents, the lawsuit reflects years of frustration. Mary Wambuey, a plaintiff since 2002, became involved after learning about plans to add more diesel generators and expressed concern over construction activity occurring during the appeal process. Jacob Fortes, whose property borders the facility where 4 diesel engines are located, described the situation as a nightmare due to potential fumes entering his home. Plaintiffs are seeking a court order to revoke both the DEP's air permit approval and the consent order, arguing the latter exceeds the agency's authority. The case serves as a cautionary tale for other communities facing data center development, highlighting the ongoing struggle for a balance of power between residents, corporations, and state bodies.